Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. On this episode I will target late summer catfish from the bank of Folsom Lake. This is one of the most requested topic I've received from my viewers and subscribers. The first thing an angler must recognize this time of year about Folsom Lake is the fact that there will be three types of behavior occurring with the catfishes of this reservoir. The first pattern of behavior is the suspended fish. This type of fish will be suspended below the massive schools of threadfin shad and Japanese pond smelts. As a bank angler, these fish are next to impossible to target. We will ignore these fish given we are targeting catfish from the bank. The second type of behavior is the structure catfish. This type of catfish will pin structure such as deep timber or rock piles. As a bank angler, sometimes the structures can be accessible by casting from the bank, but in most cases, they often will not. We will ignore these in this episode. Now the final type of behavior is the river catfish. This type of catfish will be found in both the river arms that feed into the lake. They are migratory and will spend their days following schools of baitfish up and down the arms. This type of catfish is the easiest for the boatless catfish angler to target in the summer. This is the type we will target in this episode. Now with that said, we must first understand the lake itself in order to maximize our success from the bank. The lake is formed from damming both the north and south fork of the American River. Because of this, the lake will have a huge inflow and outflow depending on the time of year and amount of rain we receive every year. What that means for the catfish anglers is that we must be prepared to change our fishing pattern and areas according to the lake's water level. What is a successful location in the spring will not be successful in the summer, and what is successful in spring and summer will not be successful in fall and winter. With that being said, the bait I'm using today will be herring. Same as before, I've salted them down, but instead of butterflying the fish, I will cut them into chunks because herring, unlike anchovies or sardines, are incredibly thin profile oily fish. The reason I'm using herring is because, particularly in lakes with large population of Japanese pond smelts, I find that herring will actually imitate the pond smelt best in form of texture, and the fish will seem to gravitate towards it more than anchovies or sardines. The rig I will be using is a basic fish finder rig. All it is consisted of is a slider, a bead, a swivel, and about a 10-inch leader because I'm keeping the catfish on a short leash. I will be using a circle hook for ease of catch and release. As I said before, I will chunk the herring because they are a far thinner profile oily fish than an anchovy, sardine, or mackerel. I will just directly hook it on the hook with no miracle thread or any bait impediments. The area I'm targeting is a large flat adjacent to the river main channel of the North Fork of the American River. It is actually near the mouth of the North Fork, and the reason I'm targeting this large flat is because the catfish that are moving up and down the river arms will stage on this flat. In the summertime, the catfishes of this reservoir will use these flats to navigate up and down the river arm. They will actively hunt these flats in the early morning hours and the late evening hours. This will be a great night fishing spot, but unfortunately the state park does not allow night fishing, so because of that, I had to make use of the early morning hours that are available to me to maximize the amount of bites I can get from this area. Also keep in mind that the information presented here is primarily aimed toward bank anglers. If you have a watercraft or a boat, your catfish options will be a lot much more varied and you'll actually have a lot more success compared to the bank angler. You can target all three types of catfish rather than just target the river arm catfish. While trying to set up the bite camera, the rod on the left hand side got bit almost immediately. I didn't have time to set up the bite camera, so therefore the GoPro actually started a little late while I was reeling in the fish. This fish is not a channel catfish, but instead is a white catfish. It is part of the bullhead family, and a lot of anglers actually think it's a blue catfish when it is not a blue catfish. I've been sent plenty of photos claiming that many anglers caught blues, but what they don't understand is they're sending me pictures of white catfish. This is actually a very large white catfish for this lake. These guys are predominantly caught around the North and the South Fork arms. These guys are also readily available in the lake, contrary to what many anglers believe that the lake is mostly channel catfish. I finally got the secondary camera set up and the landing mat out. This is actually a very nice white catfish. These guys are very dominant around the North Fork and the South Fork arms around the mouth on the peninsula. Contrary to popular belief, these guys are not a blue catfish, not a channel catfish, but part of the bullhead family. You can tell this is a white catfish from its giant head and its mouth that extend all the way to its eyes. This is a gorgeous fish, but I am not retaining any fish today, so I will let you go. Thanks for playing, buddy. Off you go. After that fiasco, I managed to get both rods set up again, and I finally got my Broly up. It is mid-morning, but I got the Broly today because the lake is hot. Despite it being mid-morning, it is close to 80 degrees already. I will fish till noon and call it quits. A fish has picked up the bait on the right hand rod. With the circle hooks, it is very important to wait until the fish loads the rod tip before going to the rod, picking it up and reeling it in. If I were retaining fish, I would use an octopus hook or a standard J hook. When the rod starts bouncing, I will set the fish immediately, but with a circle hook, I must wait until the fish fully loads. Now the fish has loaded the rod and I can just pick up and reel. I know that this is not a channel catfish again. This is probably another white catfish because with channel catfish, they'll often perform rolls, while as with a white catfish, they'll run side to side, almost similar to a carp. This fish came from the edge of the outside flat prior to the flat reaching the main river channel. As a boatless angler, these fish are your best option in this reservoir. Unless you have a boat or some kind of watercraft, this is the easiest kind of fish for the boatless angler to target. If I were on a boat, I would target the suspended fish. Those class of fish are on a whole different level compared to what the bank anglers will be catching. This is another jumbo white catfish. You can tell this is a white catfish again from its very round caudal fin and its giant head. Contrary to popular belief, these fish do actually make excellent eating, but unfortunately I am not retaining any fish today. These guys are such scrappy fighters, and I think they also look ultra cool with that giant head and the giant mouth. I'll show them to you guys real quick and I'll get them back in the water. As you can see, the very round fin says it is not a channel catfish, neither is it a blue catfish. So off you go, little guy. Thanks for playing. I got a bite on the right hand rod again. This time the fish is swimming towards me but decided to make a sharp turn. I see the bite and I'm going to wait until it fully loads because if I were to pick up the rod when the fish is swimming toward me, I will lose the fish. I'm waiting, and as soon as he swims away in the opposite direction, I can now finally pick the rod up. This is a channel catfish for sure. It began rolling immediately, and hence I knew that I got a very good fish from the river arm. This is the kind of fish that will often migrate up and down the river arm. It is equivalent to the suspended fish. These guys will not be available in numbers for the bank angler this time of year. You'll often catch a few, but not many, particularly from this lake, because most of the majority of the bigger fishes will be suspended feeding on the threadfin shad and the Japanese pond smelts. Quite a few folks had often asked me how come I don't fish from a watercraft if that's the case then. Well, primarily because most of my subscribers and viewers are shore-based anglers. I too fished from the bank for many years as a child to a young adult prior to finally being able to purchase my first watercraft, and even until then I still enjoy fishing from the bank. Not often will I find the kind of fishing from a watercraft as appealing as I would from just packing a few bits of tackle and just going fishing from the bank. This is a very nice channel catfish for this time of year. This is a very nice fish, probably above 10 pounds, but nowhere near 15 pounds. It is hooked in the corner of the mouth with a circle hook because I waited until the rod loaded before picking up the rod and reeling in the fish. This will allow me to corner hook the fish in the mouth almost every time. This is a gorgeous channel catfish from a clear water reservoir that have this tint of gray on top and a little bit of blue around the fin. I find them to be really beautiful, contrary to some people thinking it's a dirty catfish. This is a very healthy fish. I'll show him to you guys real quick and I'll prep him for release. Thanks for playing, buddy. Rest off a bit and off you go back to the lake. It is getting close to noon, but it is extremely hot. It's almost 100 degrees again, and while I was adjusting the bite camera, the right hand rod got bit again. Upon picking the rod up, I knew that this is not a channel catfish, but another white catfish. It began running side to side, almost like hooking into a small carp. This is how I know it is a white catfish and not a channel catfish. Like I always mention, most channel catfish I catch tend to spiral roll or death roll. It is close to noon and the water recreation folks are out on the lake in full force. Despite the bite keep continuing, I will stop at noon because the heat is just unbearable. I have the broly, but the broly is acting like a microwave conductor and I'm getting cooked alive underneath the broly. This is another nice white catfish. I can tell this is a female white catfish because she has lost her entire swimming fin. During the spawn, the male white catfish will push the female white catfish into a cavity and he will bite her around the fins and tail to induce her to drop her eggs. Hence why this fish probably just came off a spawning bed. She has completely lost her swimming fin and she is feeding to regain her energy. I'll show her to you guys real quick and I'll let her go. She's been through some hard time, but hopefully she survives. Thanks for playing. Off you go. Now this is one of those strange line bites. The line on the right hand rod began moving right. I knew this fish was just moving right and he is fully loaded despite the rod not showing so. So I just ran to the rod and picked up the rod and began reeling immediately. Any longer and he might actually end up swallowing the hook. When this situation occurs, it is primarily because the catfish is swimming parallel to the bank. This is a very nice channel catfish. I know it's a channel catfish because it began performing the death rolls immediately. I would like to stay out a little longer, but unfortunately it is getting close to noon and the temperatures in Northern California are just unbearable this week. It is close to 100 degrees and the water recreation folks are out here in force. Soon, I will either have to suffer the wrath of the heat or deal with the constant waves being pushed by these water recreational users. I know that if I stay till evening, I can probably grab a few more bites, but the heat is just not making the bites worth it. So I will land this fish and show him to you guys and pack it up and call it quits for the day. This is actually a very nice channel catfish from the flat of this river arm. Not a big fish by any metric or standard, but a very nice fish for this lake for this time of year from the bank. I'll show him to you guys real quick. This is a very nice channel catfish, probably about 4 to 5 pounds. This is a very healthy channel catfish. He is feisty and full of energy, and ultimately he ended up self-releasing himself. So overall, off you go, buddy. Overall, it was a great day. I caught a few catfishes for the camera despite the brutal late summer heat. Hopefully this episode helps the anglers that are interested in catfish fishing succeed at this reservoir. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, tight lines y'all.